Welcome to the ACCA Podcast where we talk about movies. I'm your host, Kat.
And I'm your co-host, Alyssa. In this episode, we're going to talk about The Incredibles and our take on it.
Let's jump in now. Okay, that was our sound effects. So, we're going to just do a deep dive on all the characters. So, we know Mr. Incredible, right?
Yeah, the super strong guy.
And Elastigirl.
The super stretchy girl.
And Buddy, right?
Yeah, the boy that wants to be Mr. Incredible's sidekick and gets rejected.
And at the end of the movie, he becomes this bad guy that they're going to defeat. But we're going to talk about that later. And their children like Jack and Violet and Dash.
Mm-hmm.
So at the start of the movie, basically Mr. Incredible is like at the peak of his life, right? He's just fighting all of this crime. And one day, this guy is jumping off a building. He's going to jump off the building. Mr. Incredible sees this, and he's like, I need to save this guy. And tell me what happens to this guy.
He decides to sue Mr. Incredible.
He decides to sue Mr. Incredible for doing his job. So apparently, the guy was trying to kill himself. Yeah, and he ended up alive, I guess. So, okay, so he ended up alive, and so that suing him made superpowers illegal in their town. And tell me what happens when superpowers are illegal.
Mr. Incredible, he wanted to live the superpower, like superhero life, but he couldn't because it was, illegal, right?
It was all banned.
Yeah.
They were going into hiding. They just couldn't be out. They couldn't save people. There's just more crime happening.
So he just had to have a normal life.
Mm-hmm. And then Elastigirl, Mr. Incredible, they're fighting crime. And at the start of the movie, he's trying to balance his life together, his superhero, his fighting crime life, and his love life. Even that was difficult for him because he was spending more time fighting crime than than paying attention to her. He was fighting crime the day of his wedding. A little feisty, if you ask me. A little feisty. Okay. So yeah, he's fighting crime, and they have kids. And the kids have superpowers, right? Tell me about the kids.
So, Dash, he's super fast, and then Violet can go invisible.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack, he doesn't have a powers until the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah, he turns into this demon baby at the end, trying to kill Buddy. So, in the middle of the movie, after the start and after superpowers get banned and stuff, Mr. Incredible is just in the rough patch of his life, all depressed. He's gaining weight. He just looks like a mess. He looks like he hasn't slept in a few days. And he hasn't been in shape. He hasn't been fighting people. So he just is not in shape. So tell me what happens at his job.
So he gets offered a promotion or a job.
Yeah, he gets offered a job
From this girl named Mirage.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in his house and his phone was going off speaking.
Yes, and it's this secret message in his house. Mm-hmm. We're just who is it from? Where did it come from?
But once it started saying oh, it's a new job of heroes.
Mm-hmm.
He actually was writing it down so then he could call it later because his wife was knocking on the door and he was really scared that she would find out.
Right. And this was after he got fired from his job. Well, no one knows he got fired from his job besides him. So the family's just oh yeah, he's still working. Elastigirl's oh yeah, he's still supporting the family and he's not a deadbeat. Girl, I think he's a deadbeat. But yeah, so he's just broke. He has no money, and gets this job offer. He's like, I get to relive my glory days. I get to like be a superhero again. I can get like fight crime again. I can just be who I wanted to be. I can get back in shape and stuff. And tell me how he gets away with it.
So Mr. Incredible gets flown out to an island by Mirage, and she has like a job for him with his superhero like
capabilities.
Yeah, and like he's supposed to fight this robot. So when he's fighting in this like room or
this
whatever,
like
cave,
tropical island. This tropical island.
Yeah, and he almost like
gets hit.
Yeah, and he like gets like a scratch from the robot, like a big rip.
Yeah, like a scar.
Yeah,
on his side.
But luckily, he defeats the robot.
And the robot, like, it finds out how you're like avoiding it, and it like it tracks how you fight it, and then it solves it. So it's like always it's just like always gonna win against you. But I guess he won. And there was this bird. There's this spy bird, and Syndrome, otherwise known as Buddy, he's like spying on the bird. So the whole thing is Buddy's plan in the end. So he's spying out of the bird. It's an electronic bird, and they're just like, oh, he's good. He's good. He can defeat the robot. So after that, they're like, I need to make a robot that can kill him, that he can't defeat. So he does. And so what?
So Elastigirl like is cleaning the house, and then she realized, oh, Mr. Incredible's like office, right, is really dirty. So she goes
a mess.
Yeah, she goes in and she cleans it, and then she finds a piece of white hair on his like superhero suit. And she also finds a rip on it, and like the only person that can fix it is Edna, so she like tries to call her.
So she goes and calls Edna, and Edna's like, oh, come in, darling. Like, you must come in today. Edna's like really pushy. So, and then she's just like, oh, come in, get the suit, because it's already done. She's like, we didn't get a suit. Like, he's not supposed to be fighting crime. He's supposed to be working. He's supposed to be on a business trip. So Edna just hangs up. She just cuts her off. And Elastigirl's just driving all the way to Edna's place. And she comes in, and Edna just has this whole thing of superhero suits for the whole family. And on the suits, there's the logo, for Incredibles. The logo on it, it tracks where the person is. And it tracked that Mr. Incredible was in, like, this forest in Syndrome's island.
Back to Mr. Incredible. So, like, he's on the island again, right? And, Buddy has a new, like, upgraded robot.
Yes.
And he, like, sends him to fight him. And then when they're fighting, Buddy comes out and he tries fighting him. And, like, he's, like, trying to escape from them, like, going in the water. And then he realizes it's a waterfall. So then he just falls in, like, the big lake.
And Syndrome, or Buddy, sends this, like, little drone thing trying to... And it's a big explosion. And he's in, like, this cave underneath the waterfall somewhere. And this robot thing is, like, trying to find out if he's alive or not. And it comes back to him, and it's like, oh, he's dead. He's dead. You don't have to worry about him. So Mr. Incredible is apparently not dead, and he's just in hiding. And he goes and he sneaks into Syndrome's like lair, and then he puts in the password for his computer, and he like has to do obstacles to get in the way, like the big lava door that they have. I was like, I really thought he wasn't gonna make it sometimes. And he goes past Mirage, and he goes in the door, and he puts in the password, and the password Syndrome, because he's self-centered. So the password is in there, and back with Elastigirl.
She's like on the airplane trying to track Mr. Incredible, and then mid-flight she's like realizing
Our commercial break. So we ended off with Mr. Incredible sneaks into Syndrome's lair and puts in the password and sees all of these like ex superheroes, and he can see like his own name, and it's just like Mr. Incredible is eliminated, and he's putting the pieces together, putting the puzzle together. Syndrome killed all of them. He killed them. That's why the superheroes are not here anymore. So, Alyssa, tell me what happens back at Edna's place.
Edna is with Elastigirl and
Pause it.
you're supposed to say Alyssa.
No, I already said it. I already said.
Back with Elastigirl and Edna. Elastigirl is looking at the suits that Edna made, and she realizes that there's the buttons, and you can click it to see where like the suits are. And Elastigirl suspects
that like Mr. Incredible's cheating on her because she finds his white hair in his room when she's cleaning it.
And she presses the button.
And then she presses the button and back over with Mr. Incredible. He's sneaking up in Syndrome's lair, and then bam, alarm goes off. Bam. All the security all the robots just point at him. It's like all trying to kill him. He sounds off the alarms, and Syndrome just comes, and he's like, "Oh, you're funny. You try to get away from me, but you couldn't. I caught you." So he puts him in this big electric machine, and his arms and his legs are like stuck together by like this bubble they had. And tell me about Mrs. Incredible flying over to him.
So Elastigirl, she was in the airplane and she was driving, or not.
She was flying.
I'm sorry. Do I still talk? Oh, okay. She was flying on the airplane, and she was by herself, and then she realizes that her kids were in the back, and they weren't supposed to come, but they came, and they realized that they left Jack at their house, but they had a babysitter to watch him.
Yeah, she did not trust that babysitter, though, whatsoever. So they fly over. She's in like this plane. I don't know who she gets the plane from. Sorry, I forgot. Bad memory. She just gets this plane. Use the sound effects. She's in this plane, and and they sneak on, and she's trying to do like some call on the radio to like, she's like, "Oh, I'm coming in the island. Can I land in here? Is it safe?" Syndrome at his lair, he gets the call, and it's like, "Oh, this plane is coming to get here." So Syndrome thinks that Mr. Incredible sounded the alarm for backup after he got caught, and he thinks that they're like his super sidekicks that are coming to save him. But no, it's actually his kids. So tell me what happens on the plane.
They sent like a bomb, like flying in the air, and
like a bunch of rockets going after them.
And Violet is supposed to make a bubble with her powers, but she can't do it because she doesn't know how to control it.
Because like all her life they've been telling her don't use her powers because they're not allowed.
And like her mom tells her to like use it, but she can't.
And so all of these rockets, at the end they just hit the plane. They hit the plane. And so the plane explodes. And Elastigirl is super stretchy, you know? Keep this in mind. She turns into a parachute. Sound effect? She turns into a parachute and she saves her kids. They land in the water. They're choking. They're splashing around. Sound effects. They're struggling to get out. They're struggling. Mom, help me. Mom, help me. She's like, girl, you got to save yourself. You brought yourself onto this plane. I told you stay home, but you couldn't. You were just naive. So she's like, we're going to get your dad back. I don't know if he's cheating on me. I don't know if he's like doing his secret missions. I don't know if he's fired, but we're going to get your dad back. So tell me what she turns into in the water.
She turns into a boat and
Sound effect. Now.
What?
Now. Because she turns into a boat. She turns into the boat. She turns into this boat, this big inflatable boat. And keep in mind, Dash is a runner. He runs so fast. Guess what this little boy's doing? Paddling the boat all the way to shore. They have to swim. She has to be a boat, and Dash has to paddle all the way to the island, all the way to shore. And Violet is like a passenger princess. She's just like in the boat. She's in the boat. She's just sitting there. She's like, are we there yet? Like, can we hurry this up or what? So they make it to the island, and Mr. Incredible is just like trapped. And he thinks, oh, my kids, my wife, they're all gone. Because earlier when she was doing the radio to them, she was like, there's kids on this plane. And Mirage, this sneaky little girl, the one that wanted to get with Mr. Incredible, she's like, no, I don't want there to be kids on there. Like, they need to, like, stop and all this. Pause. Mirage finds out that Mr. Incredible and his, like, Mr. Incredible is so sad. He thinks his kids are dead. He thinks his wife is dead. Mirage finds out, and she's like, his kids are not dead. His wife is on the island. They're here. They're not dead. They made it out alive. They did it somehow, but they did. So she frees him. She's like, go save them. Go save them. They're out there. He's like, thank you, thank you. He hugs her.
And Elastigirl comes in, and she thinks that Incredible is
cheating on her.
And Violet are outside, and they're fighting crime.
They're fighting like what? They're fighting these minions that Syndrome has hired. Because maybe he's like this rich guy with a lot of money. I don't know. They have these little minions on this little UFO. They have these guys on this like UFO, like spaceship, flying around trying to get the kids. They find out that the kids have superpowers. They're like, oh, they're supers. They're supers. The whole family is. So Mrs. Incredible and Mr. Incredible go out. She's like, oh, Mr. Incredible. And back there, he's like, oh, I love you. I missed you so much. She's like, oh, we're going to talk about this later. We're going to talk about this later because what are you doing cheating on me? So he goes out. They both go out. They're like, we got to save our kids first before getting a divorce or something. I don't know. They go out. The whole family is like fighting them off. And then, pause because I don't know what happens and then. No.
And then they get caught by Syndrome.
Oh!
And Violet, she tries to like escape, and she escapes. So
yeah, because they're in this like electric bubble. There's bubbles holding them together, and they're black, and like you can't get out of it. But Violet has like this shield that she was trying to use earlier in the plane, but I guess she learned how to use her powers now. She's using it, and she just rolls out of the thing. She gets out of the cuff. She frees all of them. And they all
escape in a van.
They all beat up these minions in this van. And they take the van, and there's like a plane. And they take the plane back to America. Back to the big city. Sound effect. They make it back to the big city. And guess what's happening on the van? Elastigirl's super stretchy. She's holding the van together with the plane. Her stretchy self, her elastic self, holding it back on the plane. And guess what? Syndrome comes back and tell me about the monster that they're fighting.
They're fighting a bigger robot, like
That Mr. Incredible was fighting that the first time and he couldn't defeat after. They're fighting the big robot. And only Syndrome has this, like, button on his wrist that can control the robot. So he's making the robot arm fall off, and he's acting like he's punching the arm off. Like, boy, we know you're not that strong. Sound effect. We know he is not that strong to be fighting this huge robot. And tell me about how the thing that controls the robot, it's falling off of his wrist. It's falling off. It's flown off. And he just gets struck by the robot. He's useless now. He doesn't have powers. He does not have no powers. So?
the remote control is on the ground and everyone tries to get it, but they can't because the robot knows that like they're trying to get it and he doesn't let them.
And the robot knows that they can control him with the arm, and it's like, it's so smart. It's too smart. This is why, like, AI should not be around in this generation. But it's too smart. And so it just knows that if they have the remote, he's going to die. He's not going to be a robot for any longer. So he tries to defeat everyone with the remote. And guess who comes out? Frozone comes out from the start of the movie. He comes out. He sees, like, everyone's fighting this robot. He's like, honey, where's my super suit? He comes out and he starts fighting crime, like, at the peak of their life. Like how they were in their glory days. Yep. So... Hi guys, we're back from our commercial break because I needed a break from this talking. So we're back and we ended off on Frozone talking and saving the day with the Incredibles. So basically, the kids see this remote that falls off of Buddy. The remote falls and it's on the floor and the kids are like, hey, that's the remote that controls the robot. I need to get that remote. The robot's like, no, I'm not letting you get this remote. I'm gonna have to fight you for it. They fight the robot. Frozone's like freezing over the town. Like, he's like freezing over, like ice everywhere. They think it's like Winter Wonderland or something. Like that's how Washington should be right now, but it's not. So it's getting frozen over. We're like, mayhem is erupting this town. Mayhem is erupting, right, Alyssa? Explosions are happening. Everything. Basically, this robot's like arm, something. It's like this nuke on the robot. And the button fires the nuke right towards the robot. Elastigirl has the remote. And Mr. Incredible is holding the nuke. I'm like, I didn't know he was that strong, but he's pretty strong. It was like as big as like a Tesla Cybertruck or something. Pretty big. Pretty big. Like a transformer. So tell me about how it gets shot right at the robot, Alyssa. Start.
Miss Elastigirl has the button and she presses it, and Mr. Incredible is holding a piece
Of the robot. Yeah. And it launches right into the robot. And that's the sound of the explosion that happened. And and the city goes into flames. And there's a big explosion. Okay, that's enough, girl. It goes into a big explosion. And everyone is just like congratulating them. Do the cheering. Yes! I'm just like, thank you, Mr. Incredible. Thank you, Elastigirl. Thank you, Frozone. That's what they say. They're like, thank you. And so they get driven back to their house. They get to live as superheroes. And tell me about the end of the movie. The resolution.
So Dash gets
into track,
and he's at his track meet, and he wins the track. And then while Violet is on the bleachers, her crush goes up to her and asks her if she wants to go to the movies, and she says yes.
Yep, and in the end, everyone gets what they want. Everyone is just happy. They're also like saying Dash to like slow down while he's doing track and not run too fast. I'm just like, embrace your powers, man. Embrace your powers, little dude. Yes! Embrace your powers, little dude. Everyone's at home and then they're like, where's Jack Jack? I want to see Jack Jack because the babysitter's had him for like, a few weeks already. I don't know how long they've been gone, but the babysitter's had him for a long time. She's about to get paid a lot of money. Soundboard. The joke. She's about to get paid a lot of money. But tell me how Syndrome appears out of nowhere and he steals their baby and Jack Jack
turns into a demon baby while
he's trying to fight off Syndrome and get back to his family. Syndrome's like, he's like, I couldn't have your power, so I'm gonna kidnap your baby. They're like, oh, our baby has superpowers, and then the baby just turns into a demon, a red demon, an ugly little baby demon, and he starts tearing him apart. I'm just kidding, guys, but he just fights him. He's like, ka-chow, ka-chow, and he's fighting off Syndrome. Yeah, pause, because I'm like, a baby cannot fight, right, Alyssa? Have you met any babies that can fight?
No.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know any babies that can fight. Maybe, the little toddlers at the Pioneer School. And so, yeah, he just fights off this baby. He fights the baby off. Syndrome gets, launched away. Syndrome is just like, I'm not going to deal with these kids anymore. Screw you meddling kids. Screw you meddling adults. What does he say? He's really mad, Alyssa.
What?
Hey, guys, I'm eating a candy cane. And we're back with the movie review. Basically, I think this movie was S tier, and I will watch it every day. I will watch it in 3D. I'll watch it in the theater. I watch it in the AMC. I watch it in the Cinemark. Cinematic movies. I don't... Thanks. So, what do you feel about this movie?
I think it was okay. It's not personally my favorite movie.
Yeah. I think it was a good movie. And, I think they could do better on how the characters looked, because why is Syndrome really ugly? Really ugly. And I was like, why does Violet can't do no shield? Well, she was in the airplane. I was like, why can't Violet do a shield in the airplane? I also didn't like when they made her hair go back. I miss emo Violet. she was cute with her little side part. Her character design, that was cute. Even though it was made in 2005. I liked it. It was in style back then. The side parts were in. Everyone wanted one, but their mom was like, no, you can't have one. But yeah, it was just like her character design was good. Dash was a little bit funny looking. What's your favorite part of the movie, Alyssa?
My favorite part was when they were done with the robot.
When they're fighting it and
Yeah.
it died into explosions.
Yeah.
Do you like explosions? Because I do. My favorite part was the demon baby, and it was clawing Syndrome apart. It was ripping him to shreds. Okay, I was not expecting that sound. But this wraps up the episode of the ACCA Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our discussion on what we felt about The Incredibles. We'd love to hear from you, and if you enjoyed today's show, you can connect us on social media, letting us know your thoughts, questions, and topics for future episodes. Until next time, this is Kat signing off.